The latest situation is, this has still been a devastating event for our state. We've now had confirmed loss of life of in excess of 130. We will see that number tragically go higher. We still have a number of fires which are active and not contained, and we have something like 800 houses that have been burnt. And so for our state, we've seen fires before in 1939 and 1983, terrible fires, but these ones have been even worse. We've never seen a tragedy of this proportions.
What is the state's advice for people who are in the fire zone, who are there, their house isn't burnt down yet, but they're worried it might be?
Well, the normal advice that we provide, the fire authorities provide, is if you are leaving the area, leave early. But if you are staying to defend your house, put in place a proper fire plan. And that policy has served the state very well, in fact, for the last 20 or more years. But the conditions we saw at the weekend, your listeners may not be aware, we saw temperatures around Melbourne and parts of Victoria of 48 degrees Celsius. That's like 120 degrees Fahrenheit in the old scale. And some of these areas where whole towns have been burnt, just north of Melbourne, fireballs just came down the main street at 40 and 50 kilometres an hour. So, we've never seen such extreme conditions. Someone said this was like we'd planned for a high tide, a king tide, we'd planned for a terrible day, but this was like a tsunami.
But that doesn't really help people who are in the line of the fire, as it were. You're saying that a policy which everyone's signed up to just doesn't work in this situation. So what is the policy now? What should someone do if they're in the line of fire?
Oh, well, the policy remains, and that's still the official policy of the fire authorities. And I've announced just in the last couple of hours, Max, that we will be having a Royal Commission, which is our highest level of inquiry that you can have in Australia into these bushfires. So they'll look at all of the issues, what caused the fires, how people responded, how fire authorities responded, and in addition, what lessons can we learn, what recommendations can be made to ensure that this doesn't occur again in the future. So
no doubt the conclusion will be that this policy hasn't worked and people have died as a result of it. What's happening now? People haven't got weeks to wait. If they're standing there and the fire's coming towards them, what are you telling them to do now? Because even the Victorian State Emergency Services Commissioner has said there are mixed messages coming out from the authority, and this is a terrible situation, isn't it, for people who are victims?
Well, I've got to disagree with you there. That the policy has served our state very well, and we had fires the week before last in Gippsland, and we had 30 houses destroyed. And in that area, everybody who stayed behind and with a fire plan and chose to protect their house not only protected their house but protected their lives. So what we saw were extreme conditions, but I repeat, these things will be considered in the context of the Royal Commission I announced today.
So what you're saying is the policy which has been standing for 20 years and isn't working in this fire, everyone knows it's not working, still stands?
There's no change. That policy is set by the fire authorities, taking into account all of the considerations, and they make that policy.